The chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. For the first time in centuries, silence ruled the most powerful place in the galaxy. The chamber itself was a masterpiece. Walls of glowing crystal, a ceiling that shimmered with moving starlight, and rows of delegates sitting in curved tiers that stretched high into the shadows. Normally, the air buzzed with speeches, arguments, and the constant hum of translation drones. But now, the council was frozen. Every eye turned to a single datapad lying at the center of the great table. It was a small device, plain and unremarkable. Yet its contents had shaken entire empires. A simple question glowed on the screen, sent across secure channels, stripped of origin. What if humans are the galaxy's deadliest predators? The words lingered, haunting, as though alive. The delegates, rulers of entire star systems, did not move. Some tapped their claws nervously, others flicked their tails in unease. One elder being, his body made of translucent energy, dimmed too, a pale flicker. For centuries, the galaxy had been ordered, controlled, and stable. The Council decided wars. The Council kept peace, and when young civilizations rose, the Council guided them gently, ensuring no species grew too fast, too wild, too dangerous. But Earth had been different. The humans did not bend easily. They did not follow the slow, cautious path of other species. They rushed into space with fire and machines. They spread faster than predicted. And wherever they went, whispers followed. Whispers of battles fought in the dark, of fleets that vanished, of humans who looked at death as though it were nothing more than a familiar shadow. It was only a rumor, a ghost of a thought. But now, someone had dared to put it into words. Are humans the galaxy's deadliest predators? The silence broke at last. Impossible, hissed Delegate Ver of the Serpa Union, his scales flashing red with agitation. Primitive bipeds, fragile bodies, no claws, no armor, no venom. They are weak. Their world barely survived its own wars. To call them predators is a lie. Yet no one agreed with him. From the shadows of the chamber, Elder Thrin of the Velari leaned forward. His voice, slow and ancient, made even the walls seem to listen. Delegate Ver, Thrin said, I have walked on Earth. I have spoken to its people. Weak, you say? Then tell me, why do they stand when others fall? Why do they laugh when death approaches? Why does their history drip with blood, yet their species thrives still? The Serpa delegate had no answer. Another voice cut in, sharp and trembling. The core fleet thought as you do. They said humans were nothing. They sent 50 warships against a single human colony. 50! And what returned? The speaker's voice broke. Nothing, only drifting wreckage, scattered like bones. A murmur spread through the chamber. It was true. Records showed that fleets had attacked humans before. None had ever returned. Whole, one empire had vanished entirely after crossing them. Some whispered the humans destroyed them so completely that even their name had been erased from the stars. Others whispered something worse, that humans had let the galaxy forget so that no one would remember the warning. The question on the datapad pulsed once more, as though alive. What if humans are the galaxy's deadliest predators? No one dared to answer. The debate stretched for hours, but the fear did not fade. Some tried to dismiss it. They spoke of human fragility, of their short lives, of their dependence on technology. But every argument met a counterpoint. Humans adapted too quickly. They learned too easily. Where others hesitated, they acted. Where others retreated, they advanced. Delegate Erosa of the Varn Confederacy spoke next. Her people were prey-born, herbivores who had built vast cities of peace. She trembled as she spoke, yet her words carried weight. We have studied predator, species across the stars. The Zal with their claws, the Drevians with their armored hides, the Urak with their venom. All are deadly, but all are predictable. Humans are not. They invent, they create new methods of destruction. Even their games mimic war. Even their children play at hunting. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Stories, Weah hissed again, desperate to deny, the fear building around him. Stories and shadows. They mean nothing. But the council knew better. Rumors had spread too far, too deep. Merchants whispered of human mercenaries who fought without fear, who survived wounds that should have killed them. Colonists spoke of human settlers who thrived on hostile worlds, breathing poison air, fighting beasts that devoured others. Soldiers muttered about battles where humans fought outnumbered, outgunned, and still won. The question had become a shadow that haunted every corner of the galaxy. Were humans the galaxy's deadliest predators? Elder Thrin rose at last, his energy form glowing faintly. The chamber fell silent again. Enough, he said. We can argue for cycles, and still the question will remain. There is only one way to know the truth. The delegates turned toward him uneasy. What way? Someone asked. Thrin's glow flickered like a dying star. Test them, he said. One empire has already tried. They did not return. Perhaps another will find the truth. Gasps filled the chamber. To test humanity was to risk annihilation. But the council needed answers. The galaxy needed answers. And somewhere, in the far reaches of space, an empire, proud, ambitious and reckless, was already preparing to challenge the humans. The chamber's great doors closed with a thunderous boom. The question remained, glowing on the datapad like fire in the dark. What if humans are the galaxy's deadliest predators? In a cold star system far from the Council, massive warships prepared for departure. Their hulls glimmered with the banners of an empire hungry for glory. The admiral stood at the command deck, watching as the fleet powered up. He smiled coldly, unaware of the silence spreading across the galaxy. Predators? He scoffed. Let us see how deadly they truly are. And with that, the fleet jumped to warp, straight toward a human colony. The galaxy held its breath. The test had begun. The stars held secrets. Every empire in the galaxy kept records, logs of battles, maps of trade routes, histories carved into crystal and steel. These archives were meant to preserve truth, to stop lies from spreading, yet there were some truths too heavy to speak aloud. Buried deep within restricted vaults, locked behind layers of security, sat the whispers of a question no one dared answer. What happened to the fleets that fought the humans? It began centuries ago, long before the Galactic Council admitted Earth as a young race. Small skirmishes, border raids, pirate encounters, ships that clashed with humans often failed to return. At first it was dismissed as chance. Pirates were unpredictable. Wars always swallowed fleets. But over time, the pattern became clear. They vanished, not destroyed in the usual sense, not the burning wreckage of plasma fire or the drifting hulks of defeated ships. No, these fleets disappeared entirely. Sometimes, centuries later, fragments were found. An empty cruiser drifting on the edge of a dead system, its crew missing, its weapons burned out, its logs corrupted beyond repair. Other times, only black boxes remained, recovered from debris fields that gave no clue of the battle that had taken place, and the stories were always the same. The last transmissions carried only one word: humans. The Council knew, the empires knew, but they buried the truth under silence. To admit it would mean acknowledging something terrible, that humanity, fragile and young, had destroyed powers much older and stronger. Now, after the question had been raised in the council chamber, are humans the deadliest predators? Researchers were ordered to investigate. Not openly, of course. No empire wanted to show fear. But in the quiet corners of the galaxy, scholars, archivists, and spies began pulling threads, and what they uncovered was more frightening than silence. Elder Thrin's order had set everything in motion. Test them, he had said, And one empire had already answered. Their fleet was moving toward a human colony even now. But while ships prepared for war, others searched the past. On the desert world of Varos, beneath a city carved from stone, archivist Kelry unsealed a vault untouched for 300 years. The dust clung to her feathers as she brushed old tablets clean, her wings trembling with every glyph she uncovered. The tablets told of the core dominion, once a mighty power now erased from maps. The core had commanded hundreds of worlds, their fleets darkened the stars. But then, silence. No one recorded their fall. No empire claimed their worlds. It was as if they had never existed. Yet here, in the forgotten vaults, Kelry read the truth. The core had invaded a human outpost. Records showed they had sent 112 ships. Their last message was confident: "We will crush them. By the next cycle, the humans will kneel, but after that nothing, no return, no survivors, no victory." Kelry's feathers shook as she traced the final line carved into the stone by a desperate hand. "Do not fight the humans. We were prey, and they hunted us." She sealed the vault again, her heart pounding. Some truths were too dangerous to carry. On the ocean world of Dreth, another researcher uncovered logs from the Drevians' old empire. The Drevians had been warriors once, their armor thick, their weapons unmatched. They had laughed at the idea of fragile humans being a threat. But then she found a wreck, an old Drevian battleship pulled from the depths of the sea. Its logs were corrupted, filled with static and half-burned data, but one fragment remained. The Drevian commander's voice, ragged and broken. "They don't fight like us. They become something else in battle. Then silence." The researcher trembled. She played the file again and again, hoping to find comfort in repetition. But each time, it ended the same way, with fear. The whispers grew louder. Across the galaxy, fragments of truth surfaced. A trade. Convoy that vanished near a human colony, its escort fleet never found. A mercenary band that challenged humans in close combat, none returned. A pirate lord who claimed to have beaten them, later discovered floating in pieces, his ship torn apart as though by claws unseen, and always the same conclusion: humans did not lose. Back in the council chamber, the reports arrived one by one. Delegates read them in silence, their faces pale. They fought the core dominion. The core no longer exist. They fought the Drevians. Their empire collapsed. They fought the Zol marauders. Not a single raider survived. The chamber filled with dread. Delegate Vare hissed again, his scales dull now, his earlier arrogance fading. "Coincidence," he said, but no one believed him anymore. The weight of history was undeniable. Elder Thrin's glow dimmed as he spoke. "Whispers of lost fleets are not whispers anymore. They are warnings. Humanity is not prey. They are something older, something the galaxy has forgotten. Predators who do not stop until nothing remains." The silence grew heavier than before. Far away, in the deep void, the reckless Empire's fleet moved closer to its target. Their ships glowed like blades in the dark, proud and confident. But in their path lay a human colony, small, quiet, and seemingly undefended. Children played under artificial skies, farmers tended crops, workers built ships that looked simple, almost crude. Compared to the gleaming war machines of the approaching armada, the Empire believed it would be an easy victory. A test to prove humanity was weak. They did not know that the galaxy's whispers were about to become screams, because history was about to repeat itself, and soon another fleet would vanish. The alien researcher sat alone in a darkened chamber, her eyes fixed on the glowing screen. Dr. Solari of the Velari Institute had studied countless species across the stars: herbivores, scavengers, hunters, and apex predators. She knew the patterns of life. Prey ran, predators chased. Balance was kept. But humans Humans did not fit. For weeks she had watched footage smuggled from human colonies, reports taken from old wars, even recordings of their so-called games. And what she saw chilled her deeper than any battlefield. Humans smiled in danger. They laughed when wounded. They pushed forward when others would retreat. She paused the screen. A human soldier stood, his body torn by shrapnel, bleeding heavily. Yet instead of collapsing, he reached for his weapon, grinned, and whispered something to his comrade. The translation drone struggled to make sense of it. Finally, the words appeared. "Let's finish this." Solari's throat tightened. This was not prey behavior. This was not even predator behavior as she understood it. Predators killed to survive. They hunted when hungry. But humans, they hunted when they did not need to. They fought when surrender was wiser. They played at war, teaching their children to stalk, to ambush, to strike. Solari whispered to herself, "If they are not predators, then what are they?" The screen flickered again, showing more footage, human explorers climbing. Deathworld mountains with no fear of the storms above. Human scientists diving into oceans filled with creatures that could swallow them whole. Human athletes pushing their bodies to collapse, then standing again with fire in their eyes. It was not survival. It was something else, something darker. They thrived in chaos. They became stronger in pain. They lived for the struggle, and that, Solari realized, was what made them terrifying. The Council demanded answers. Rumors of vanished fleets spread too far, too fast. Now, scholars and researchers across the galaxy were forced to study the humans openly. Some tried to analyze their biology, bones denser than most, muscles stronger than they looked, an ability to heal from wounds that killed others. But Solari knew biology alone could not explain it. It was their mind. She prepared her report, her hands trembling as she spoke before the gathered council. Predators hunt to feed. Predators kill to live. But humans, they hunt for sport. They invent games of war. They simulate death again and again until it becomes entertainment. Even their stories, fictional tales told for pleasure, speak of conflict, of struggle, of battles fought against impossible odds. The chamber stirred uneasily. Delegates exchanged glances, their expressions hard. Solari continued. Other predators fear pain. They avoid danger when possible. Humans walk into it willingly. Their history is endless war, not because they were forced, but because they sought dominance over one another. They burned their own world with fire and steel, and yet they survived. No species should have endured what they endured, and yet here they stand. Her voice shook as she placed the final image on the holoscreen. Humans standing on a battlefield, their faces scarred, their bodies broken, yet their eyes burning with something that defied reason. They are not prey. They are not predators. They are something else. They are persistence given form. They are will made flesh. They are the nightmare of every prey and every predator alike. They are humanity. The council sat in stunned silence. Delegate Veer's scales dulled grey. "You claim too much, researcher. They are only flesh. They bleed. They die. All die." Solari turned her gaze to him. "Yes, they die. But unlike others, they expect death. They live beside it. They joke with it. They plan for it. And when it comes, they do not run. They face it. That is what makes them different." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even those who hated the humans could not deny the truth. Outside the chamber, word spread quickly. On distant colonies, farmers spoke of humans who worked in deadly storms without pause. Soldiers whispered of humans who stood against beasts that even armored squads avoided. Pirates muttered of raids gone wrong, where the humans fought not like soldiers, but like creatures possessed. The galaxy began to see humans not as fragile newcomers, but as predators hiding in plain sight. And all the while, the reckless empires. Fleet drew closer to its target. On the flagship of the approaching fleet, Admiral Kor watched the stars shift as his ships moved through warp. His officers bowed before him. Their weapons gleamed. Their soldiers were ready. "Humans," Kor said, his voice full of contempt. "Weak creatures. Their reputation is smoke and shadow. When we arrive, we will prove the galaxy wrong. We will show these so-called predators what true power is." The fleet roared in agreement, engines burning bright against the void. But far behind them, in the council chamber, Elder Thrin whispered to himself, unseen by the others, "You do not know what you awaken, Kor. You cannot imagine what hunts beneath the human smile." And with that, the galaxy waited for the moment when the fleet would clash with the species no one understood, but everyone feared. Because soon the predator's nature would no longer be theory. It would be truth. The council chamber had seen trials before. It had judged wars, punished empires, and weighed the fates of entire worlds, but never had it dared to test a species like this. The decision had come with fear. Delegates whispered in private, "We must know, we must see it with our own eyes." And so, in secret, the council arranged the trial. They called it a test of endurance. But in truth, it was a test of terror. The rules were simple. 1 human would be chosen. 10 beasts would be unleashed. Death-world monsters. Creatures bred on the harshest worlds, each one capable of tearing squads apart. The chamber was prepared. Like an arena. Walls reinforced with energy fields. Platforms raised for the delegates to watch in safety. At the center, a wide open ground of stone and dust where the human would stand. When the gates opened, the galaxy would have its answer. The chosen human was a soldier named Daniels. He stood quietly in the center of the arena, hands loose at his sides. No weapons, no armor, only the simple uniform of his kind. His eyes scanned the chamber, not with fear, but with calm curiosity, as if he were a spectator and not the one about to fight for his life. The alien delegates whispered among themselves, "He should beg for a weapon. He should be trembling. Does he not understand what waits behind the gates?" But Daniels only smiled faintly, as if amused by their concern. A heavy silence fell. The floor vibrated. The gates began to rise. From the shadows, the first beast emerged. A hulking predator, its body armored with bone, claws like plasma blades. Its roar shook the chamber. On most worlds, armies fled from such a sound. Daniels tilted his head, and then, to the horror of every delegate, he laughed. The first beast charged. Daniels did not retreat. He moved forward, low and fast, his body weaving between strikes. His hands found a weak point under the creature's jaw, and with a sharp twist, bone cracked. The monster collapsed with a scream, dead in seconds. Gasps filled the chamber. "That was luck," hissed Delegate Vare, though his voice trembled. "The others will finish him." The second gate opened. A winged predator swooped down, talons wide. Daniels rolled, dust rising around him, and caught its leg as it passed. With brutal precision he yanked, slammed it into the ground, and stomped until it lay still. One by one, the gates opened. The third beast spat acid. Daniels used its own momentum to force it into its own spray. The fourth struck with a tail, like a spear. Daniels broke it, then used the jagged bone as a weapon. The fifth had armor too thick for blows. Daniels blinded it with dust, then climbed its back and snapped its neck. The arena floor became a battlefield of blood and broken monsters. Yet the human still stood, his body bruised, cut, and burned. But his eyes alive, burning with the same fire Solari had once described. By the time the 10th beast emerged, a towering creature, 3 times Daniel's height, the chamber had fallen silent. No delegate spoke, no one dared breathe. The monster roared. Daniels grinned through blood-stained teeth. The fight lasted longer. The beast struck hard, slamming Daniels into the wall, clawing at him with strength that could crush steel. But each Time Daniels fell, he rose again. His movements grew slower but never weaker. His eyes never dimmed. At last, as the creature lunged with jaws wide, Daniels shoved his arm deep into its throat and ripped through flesh with sheer willpower. The beast collapsed, choking on its own blood, and there stood Daniels, shaking, covered in wounds, but alive. The chamber erupted. Some delegates shouted in awe. Others screamed in denial. Vaya coiled in fury, his scales black. "This proves nothing," he spat. "He is a soldier, trained, prepared. Any warrior could—" "No," Elder Thrin interrupted, his glowing form steady. "Not any warrior. We have tested others before. None survived even the first beast. This human, this predator, endured all 10. Solari rose, her voice calm but firm. "You see now what I have spoken. They do not retreat. They do not surrender. Even when broken they rise. That is their nature, not prey, not predator. Something greater, something worse." The chamber fell into a heavy silence again. The delegates stared down at Daniels, who now leaned against a broken beast, breathing heavily but grinning all the same. His blood dripped onto the arena floor, but he did not falter. When the guards approached to escort him out, he raised his hand and whispered only 2 words, "What's next?" The chamber froze. It was not enough that he had survived. He wanted more. He asked for more, and at that moment the council understood. This was endurance beyond logic, beyond biology. This was the essence of humanity, the refusal to stop, the hunger to keep fighting, no matter the odds. The test had been meant to humble humans, to expose weakness. Instead, it revealed a truth far darker. Far away, in the void of space, Admiral Kor's fleet closed in on the human colony. He had not seen the trial. He did not know the Council's growing fear. He believed victory was near. But back in the chamber, Elder Thrin whispered to Solari, his glow faint with dread, "The Empire's fleet will not return. The humans will show them what endurance truly means, and then the galaxy will remember why predators must be feared." The datapads on every delegate's desk pulsed once more, repeating the question that now echoed louder than ever across the stars. Are humans the deadliest in the galaxy? The answer was coming, and this time it would be written in fire. The Council. Chamber was silent. They had seen the trial. They had witnessed a lone human endure what no other species could survive. The memory of Daniels, bleeding, broken, yet still grinning, haunted every delegate. But one question remained, heavy in the air like a shadow none dared face. Why are humans like this? Elder Thrin's glow flickered as if dimmed by dread. Solari sat forward, her scaled hands clasped, and across the chamber Delegate Vaya hissed with defiance, unwilling to accept the truth. "They are dangerous, yes," Vaya spat. "But danger is not mystery. No one is born to endure what they do. No one rises from defeat like they do. This is not natural. This is history." The word struck like a blade. History. The one place no alien dared look too deeply. Because human history was not merely bloodied, it was drowned in it. Entire libraries whispered of wars, conflicts, and collapses. Legends spoke of firestorms that swallowed cities, weapons that scarred planets, and battles fought not for survival, but for domination. Solari's voice trembled as she rose. "Perhaps it is time. The Council remembers." The chamber lights dimmed. A vast screen descended. Files sealed for centuries were unlocked. And as the records began to play, the galaxy looked upon the truth it had long ignored. The first images appeared. Primitive humans with stone and fire, locked in endless battles against predators larger than themselves. Yet where other species fled, humans stood. They crafted traps. They used fire not only to survive but to hunt. They turned weakness into strategy. The delegates leaned forward, unsettled. "This is their beginning," one whispered. "Always fighting?" "Yes." Solari answered quietly. Always. The images shifted. Now humans wielded steel. Armies clashed across endless fields, rivers running red. The council chamber echoed with the sound of swords, shields, and the thunder of war drums. Delegate Vaya sneered. Savages! Nothing more, but the visions continued. Gunpowder, cannons, endless wars of empire, cities burned, skies blackened, yet for every fall humanity rose again, stronger, deadlier, more united in destruction. Elder Thrin's glow dimmed further. Their endurance is forged by centuries of killing themselves. The chamber grew colder. Then came the final images, the age of machines. Iron warships, great tanks, weapons that spat fire like gods of destruction, cities leveled in moments. And worse, mushroom clouds rising into the sky, white fire consuming all, shadows burned into stone. Several delegates recoiled. Unfainted, impossible, a voice choked. No species would turn such power on its own world, but the records did not stop. Space battles, orbital strikes, starships tearing apart moons. Humans had done it all. Against enemies. Against themselves. Against anything that challenged their place in the stars. Solari turned, her eyes sweeping the chamber. Do you understand now? They are not predators because they hunt others. They are predators because they hunted themselves first. They perfected war upon their own kind, until no challenge was left but the galaxy itself. A silence deeper than the void filled the chamber. Ver, pale now, hissed in disbelief. If what you say is true, then they are not dangerous. They are unstoppable. Thrin's voice trembled. No, they are worse. They are inevitable. The debate exploded into chaos. Some delegates demanded war. Destroy them before it is too late. Others begged for peace. Do not provoke them, contain them, negotiate. Solari spoke with quiet certainty. War will not stop them. Peace will not bind them. History proves this. Whatever we choose, humanity will endure. Her words echoed. The chamber shook with argument, threats, and fear, yet beneath it all, one truth bound them together. The galaxy could no longer ignore humanity's past, and that past was a shadow stretching into the future. Far from the Council, Admiral Kor's fleet reached the human colony world of Rendara. Kor had not seen the records. He had not heard Solari's warning. He believed the humans were fragile, untested prey. His fleet descended with fire and arrogance. The colony looked defenseless. Small cities, scattered defenses, outdated weapons. Kor ordered an immediate assault. His ships unleashed bombardments that lit the sky, but on the ground the humans did not flee. They endured. Civilians dug into shelters. Militia rose with rifles, holding streets and forests. Old war veterans emerged from retirement, carrying scars and weapons from battles no alien had ever heard of. Kor's first wave expected surrender. Instead, they met resistance so fierce, it stalled the entire advance. From orbit, Kor sneered. Fools! They waste themselves, but deep inside an old fear stirred. The humans fought not for victory, not for survival, but for something he could not understand, an unyielding refusal to kneel. Back in the council chamber, the records ended. The screen went dark. The silence was unbearable. Then, in the shadows of the hall, a question rose again, stronger, louder, no longer a whisper but a roar across the galaxy. Are humans the deadliest in the galaxy? Solari closed her eyes. Her voice was a whisper, but it carried the weight of truth. They are not the deadliest because of what they are now. They are the deadliest because of what they have always been. The first mistake was arrogance. The second was ignorance. The third was war. Admiral Kor's fleet hovered above Rendara, certain of victory. His ships filled the skies, their cannons blotting out the stars. The colony below burned, its cities torn apart, its surface scarred by fire. But the humans did not kneel. They Bled, yes, they lost homes, yes, but they did not break, and that truth, hidden beneath the smoke and ruin, was the seed of the storm that was about to come. In the council chamber light years away, Solari whispered the words no one wished to. Here the Empire has awakened them. The silence that followed was heavy. Delegates turned pale. Elder Thrin's glow dimmed as he bowed his head. The council understood too late, for when humans are struck, they strike back 1,000-fold, and when they rise in fury, nothing survives the reckoning storm. The battle over Rendara stretched for days. The Empire unleashed wave after wave of soldiers and war machines, confident each strike would shatter resistance. But on the ground, human endurance showed its true shape. Farmers became snipers in the fields. Engineers turned mining tools into weapons. Old veterans led militias with tactics no alien commander had studied. Every street became a trap, every forest path an ambush. Empire soldiers whispered in fear at night, swearing they saw human eyes glowing in the dark. Kor fumed. "They are nothing but savages," he roared, slamming his claws against the command table. "Crush them." And yet, each push drained his fleet further. His supply lines stretched, his soldiers' morale cracked, his officers began to whisper doubts. Still, Kor pressed forward, refusing to accept the impossible, that prey could turn into predators. In the black void beyond Rendara, human reinforcements stirred. Not many, not fleets, not armadas, but ships, old, battered yet deadly, rising from hidden bases and long-forgotten outposts. Veterans of Earth's endless wars climbed aboard, grim-faced, ready to fight again. When the distress call reached them, they did not hesitate. They came not as saviors, not as conquerors, but as stormbringers. The first human warship dropped into Rendara's orbit in silence. Its hull was scarred, its weapons old. Kor laughed when he saw it. "One ship," he sneered. "This is their answer?" But laughter turned to silence when the warship moved. Its cannons spoke with thunder. Its torpedoes cut through shields like paper. It struck with precision born of endless history, targeting engines, command decks, and supply ships. Within minutes, 3 Empire cruisers burned. Kor froze. His officers panicked. And below, on the ground, the humans raised their heads as hope surged. The storm had come. More ships followed, not fleets, not thousands, but enough. Every human ship fought with reckless fury, charging into battles where numbers did not matter. They fought like Daniels in the arena, bloodied yet unbroken, turning wounds into weapons. And the Empire discovered a truth they had never imagined. Humans did not fight wars to win quickly. They fought wars to endure until their enemies could fight no more. Every destroyed human vessel only hardened the survivors. Every fallen soldier became a rallying cry. The storm was not just ships and weapons. It was willpower, unyielding and endless. Kor's fleet began to crumble. His officers pleaded for retreat, but the admiral refused. Pride bound him. Fear blinded him. And then the reckoning fell. Human warships coordinated with ground fighters. Traps detonated. Entire squadrons vanished in ambushes. In one night, half of Kor's fleet was gone. The admiral raged, but inside he felt it, something he had never known before. Not anger, not hatred. Fear. Back in the council chamber, news arrived in fragments. First, whispers of destroyed cruisers. Then entire battalions lost. Then the message that broke the chamber's fragile calm. Kor's fleet is falling. Gasps filled the hall. Vare hissed in disbelief. "Impossible! They were primitives, colonials! How can they stand against an empire?" Solari's voice was cold. "You saw their history. You saw their trial. Did you think they would not fight back? This is who they are. This is why we fear them." Elder Thrin's glow trembled. This storm will not end with Rendara. The Empire has drawn their fury. Now, the galaxy will witness the cost. On the shattered world of Rendara, smoke rose from burning ships. The Empire's banners lay, torn, trampled in the dust, and at the center of the ruins, the humans stood bloodied, scarred but unbroken. Admiral Kor, aboard his failing flagship, stared into the void as human ships closed in. His claws shook, his pride crumbled. For the first time he whispered words no one thought an Empire admiral would ever say. We were wrong. The humans had risen. The storm had begun, and across the galaxy the question no longer sounded like speculation. It sounded like prophecy. Are humans the deadliest in the galaxy? The answer was coming, and it would come in fire. The council chamber shook with voices, fear, anger, panic. News of Admiral Kor's defeat had spread across the stars like wildfire. The Empire's once mighty fleet lay in ruins above Rendara. Their soldiers scattered, their banners burned, and the humans, bleeding, battered, scarred, still stood. Now the galaxy had to decide. Delegates from 100 worlds sat in silence, staring at one another with pale faces and trembling hands. No one dared speak the truth aloud, but the thought screamed in every mind. If the humans could destroy an Empire fleet with so little, what happens when they rise as one? Solari's voice cut through the silence, steady, cold, certain. We cannot ignore this any longer. We must vote. A vote of fear, not for law, not for justice, but for survival, and every delegate knew, whichever way the vote turned, the galaxy would never be the same. The council debate began. Delegate Ver struck first, his voice sharp as claws. You have seen what they are. You have seen what they did at Rendara. A handful of ships, a handful, and an Empire fleet is ash. What will happen when they gather in thousands, when they march on our worlds? They must be destroyed now, before it is too late. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber, but not all. Another delegate rose, trembling but firm. And if we attack, did we not learn from the Empire's mistake? Strike them, and they will rise stronger. They will not forgive. They will not forget. You call for war, Ver, but war is what they were born to endure. Solari stood, her gaze sweeping the chamber. You cannot kill endurance. You cannot erase history. You cannot silence a storm. The question is not if we can destroy them. The question is, can we survive the attempt? The chamber erupted again. Some cried for extermination. Others begged for peace. Some whispered of alliances, of binding humans with treaties before their power grew further. And above it all, the fear lingered. Every choice was dangerous. Every path carried doom. Elder. Thrin's glow flickered as he rose. The chamber fell quiet. His voice, though weak, carried the weight of centuries. I have lived through wars. I have seen conquerors rise and fall. And I tell you this, humanity is unlike any I have seen. They do not break. They do not kneel. Even when bloodied, even when burned, they rise again. To fight them is to invite annihilation. To leave them alone is to await the day they no longer ignore us. His words hung like shadows. Ver hissed, his scales black with fury. So what then? Do we surrender our galaxy to predators? Do we bow before them as prey? No, Solari answered sharply. But we must choose carefully, for one wrong. Choice will decide not just our fate, but the fate of every world. The delegates trembled, the chamber shook with whispers, and at last the council prepared for the vote. While the council debated, humanity remained silent. The colonies rebuilt their homes. The survivors buried their dead, and the warships, scarred from Rendara, gathered quietly in hidden ports. They did not threaten. They did not broadcast. They simply prepared. And that silence terrified the galaxy more than words ever could. The great gong sounded, lights dimmed. The chamber descended into ritual silence. Each delegate stepped forward, placing their choice into the vote. War, peace, containment. The results would shape the stars. One by one, choices were made. Some delegates' hands shook, others placed their votes with grim certainty, and still no one dared breathe as the final tally was prepared. The chamber's great screen lit with the results. The council stared. Gasps echoed. Whispers turned to shouts. The vote had not brought unity. It had split the galaxy apart. Nearly half demanded war. A great number begged for peace. The rest demanded isolation. The council had no single answer, no united front, and in that fracture the galaxy felt the weight of doom. For humanity would see their division. Humanity would understand their fear, and humanity would decide what happened next. Silari whispered into the silence, her voice heavy with dread. The question has never been ours to answer. It has always been theirs. Humanity will choose, and the galaxy will live or die by that choice. Across the stars, the whisper rose once again, louder than ever before, echoing like thunder in every heart. Are humans the deadliest in the galaxy? The final revelation was coming. The galaxy waited. The council had voted, but the result was no answer. Only chaos, war, peace, containment. The chamber had fractured, each faction terrified, each convinced their path was the only one that would save them. But all their voices meant nothing now, because humanity had not yet spoken. The galaxy's eyes turned toward Earth, toward the colonies, toward the scarred fleets rising from the shadows of Rendara. Whispers spread like fire. Would they strike? Would they conquer? Would they burn? The stars in vengeance. Silari stood in the chamber, her gaze fixed on the silent void. Elder Thrin's glow flickered faintly beside her. Both knew the truth the others could not face. The final revelation was not in the council's vote. It was in humanity's answer, and that answer was coming. Across the void, human fleets began to move. Not thousands of ships, not endless armadas, just enough. Their vessels scarred, their soldiers bloodied, their worlds wounded. Yet their silence was broken at last. A single transmission was sent. It did not come with threats, it did not come with demands. It came with a story. The chamber darkened. A human stood on the great screen, an admiral, his uniform torn, his face scarred, his eyes burning with a quiet fire. He did not shout, he did not boast. He spoke with calm, steady words. You ask if we are the deadliest in the galaxy. You whisper it in fear, you debate it in your halls. You think of war, you think of peace, you think of how to stop us. The chamber fell into silence. No delegate dared move. But you do not understand. We did not endure Rendara to conquer you. We did not fight beasts in your trials to prove pride. We do not rise from ruin because we wish for blood. The admiral leaned closer. His voice sharpened. We rise because we must, always, against predators, against storms, against ourselves. We endure because the universe has never given us peace. And if you come for us, if you strike us, if you force our hand, then yes, we will show you what it means to face the deadliest. Gasps rippled through the chamber. But if you leave us be, if you stand with us, not against us, then we will not be your end. We will be your shield. The message ended. The screen went dark, and the chamber trembled, not with fear, not with fury, but with something stranger. Hope. The delegates erupted in chaos. Some wept, some raged, some begged to accept the offer. Vare hissed with venom. Do not believe them. They speak of peace, but their history screams war. They will destroy us all. Silari rose, her voice strong. You saw their truth. They are predators, yes, but predators who choose when to strike. The final revelation is this. They are not bound by fear, not by hate. They choose their own path, and now so must we. Elder Thrin whispered, his glow faint but steady. Perhaps the question was wrong all along. It is not, are humans the deadliest? It is. What will they choose to be? On distant worlds, broadcasts spread. Billions of alien eyes saw the human admiral's words. Some trembled, expecting war. Some cheered, praying for alliance. All knew one truth: humanity had given their answer. They were not the deadliest because they must be. They were the deadliest because they could be. And that choice, that terrifying freedom, was what made them unlike any other. Back on Rendara, the survivors stood beneath broken skies. Ships lifted into orbit. Soldiers prepared for what came next. But there was no invasion fleet, no conquest, only the storm, waiting. The galaxy now lived with the revelation. Humans were not monsters by nature. They were not saviors by destiny. They were something far more dangerous. They were free to choose. Celari's voice closed the council session, her words echoing through every world, every fleet, every heart. The question has been answered. Humanity is the deadliest in the galaxy, not because of their weapons, not because of their wars, but because of their will. They are the storm, and storms do not ask for permission. The chamber went dark. Across the stars, silence fell. And in that silence, every world whispered the words now etched into history: are humans the deadliest in the galaxy? The answer had been revealed.